interesting part. What do we do with somebody with a disc dysfunction? So I have a couple points which I think are really the most important things to think about, and then we'll go through the exercise. I'll have one of you come up and we'll go through and actually do the exercises and have you see how to cue them, because sometimes the exercise is good for different things, it has to be taught differently. So creating length is the main thing for me with somebody with a disc. So emphasize lengthening the spine in all their movements. So coccyx curl and flexion-based exercises and the glute series and extension-based exercises, you're always talking about creating length. So can I borrow somebody? What's our time looking like? Good, thank you, Genevieve. So if I want to teach her coccyx curl, I would either have her knees all the way together or put a ball in there. And so my cueing is really important, because if somebody doesn't know what they're doing and you ask them to pelvic tilt, just go pelvic tilt. Right, and she's too trained. You can't even do it you can't even do it that wrong. But yeah, it's just, right. So she's in her butt. She's basically just shortened the space between her hip and her rib cage. Right, there's not a lot else happening, right? There's not a lot of anything happening. We have an opportunity with coccyx curl. I think coccyx curl is my place where we have this opportunity to create space in the spine and to create flexion in the spine in a way that's safe, right? So that's why I love it. But they have to know that they're trying to create length in order to get the right thing out of it. Otherwise, they just push with their heels, squeeze their butt, and they're tilted, but they're actually then compressing more than lengthening. So I like to cue it by telling them to take a breath in, and then on your exhale, you're going to think about sliding the sit bones away from you, lengthening the tail as much as you can, and then allowing the tail to curl up. And I'll give them that manual cue a lot of the time. I'm actually pulling down towards her heels with my fingers and trying to give her that cue. And then I kind of cued her when I wanted her to go into that coccyx curl. And then I want you to unroll, really trying to go one vertebra at a time, coming back to neutral. Right? And if you're not afraid and somebody's really having a hard time, I'll have them, okay, go into your coccyx curl. If they're not getting it, I'll slide my hand right underneath their tail. So I get in there and I just hook my fingertips gently on her back, right? It's not uncomfortable, is it? Yeah, and then I ask them,
your fingertips on?
Right at the top of her sacrum, yeah, right kind of at that PSIS. And I'm going to give her that cue with my hand and say, now come down one vertebra at a time, really trying to, and I'm pulling up on her tail as she's rolling down through. So I'm keeping that tail up. I'm helping her know, I'm not strong enough to create that length for her, but I'm giving her enough cueing that now she's able to create that length in her spine. Yeah, do you guys want to try that with a partner and see how it feels? So I had to get in there, and I actually had to lower my hands. So sometimes it depends on where the person's mobile and where they're not, really, where I need to give them that support. And so with Kim, I had to come down a little lower, keep that tail up to give her space to bring this part of herself down.
Because until I activated my glutes a little bit, I could feel I was using my hip flexors.
Yeah.
Small is okay with that.
Small is okay, yeah. But what you'll see is that they're coming down. Here, I'll show you. What you'll see wrong, and when you know, I got to do something about this, or if you just, so people can do this, right? There's no length in there. I'm just crunched and strong. Great, it's great for strong, I guess. But if I want length and I'm trying to give space, I'm going to go this way, right? I'm going that way, and then I'm going that way, and I'm going to keep lengthening. So even as I come up, sometimes I'll even grab their thighs and pull them that way. You just have to be careful that if you do that, you don't get that then, right? So it's there, and I'm trying to get my tail, it's like something's pulling it that way, up away. But what you'll see that goes wrong is either that, right, and then they come down and they go like that, right, the last part, they start rolling, or they go like that, and then they try and roll. Here you can't roll. I'm so neutral and so extended that there's no roll. So that's where I can come in and say, okay, now give me more length. I want that length, and then come in. It's much different, right, to have that length coming down. Yeah? So that's all. And length we like for disc dysfunction because we create space. right? If we create space, our hope is that if there's a disc bulge or some pressure on the disc, that we're giving that disc a little more space, right? So that's traction, right? Traction, length. So that's why, and coccyx curl is an unloaded way to flex the spine. So we can get flexion with length without more compression and actually maybe give them some relief. Right? So that's why I like the idea of length and why coccyx curl is so big. So then glute series, we're not actually going for flexion here, we're going for length, right? But if Kim doesn't do anything here and she goes to lift her legs, so don't try and do anything, she's gonna end up in extension, right? And her belly's dropping and she's actually compressing more. So we really don't want that when we're trying to create space in the back. We want to think about, again, that length. So I like to come in and I will often take the palm of my hand and I'll give them length, right? And then I'll say, now stretch your legs long away from you. Keep stretching those toes long, long, long away. Keep stretching, stretching, stretching. Perfect. Right? And then have them come back down, lowering the legs. So I'll just start with that. I won't even start with swimming legs or Charlie Chaplin's. I'll just let them, And I'll try and keep their pelvis neutral right here so that when their legs come up, they don't end up hyperextending in the lumbar spine. Right? And they're creating length and space. And by creating that reach, we also get activation in the thighs.